Hey, Fire fans and Major League Soccer fans. This is Nick with the Feed the Fire podcast. It is a wonderful Saturday morning, and I'm not just saying it's wonderful because my kids are over at my in-laws' house for last night and today. I'm saying it's wonderful because it's Chicago Fire game day. We have a rare double game week. Chicago Fire losing earlier in the week, 1-0 to Philadelphia and yeah, it was a PK, and you have to call those. It's just a disappointing way to lose to the top team in the Eastern Conference after holding them for just about 90 minutes of a game. The goal was scored early on in the match, but the Fire played pretty well defensively, just couldn't get the offensive going, which seems to be a bit of a trend at their home games. But now today, Saturday, June 28th, the Chicago Fire welcome Charlotte FC to Soldier Field. I'll be at the match tonight with my son, with some friends. It's their first ever Fire game. So if you see me out with some people tonight, make sure you say, hey, we'll be welcoming, and let's create a good atmosphere and create some good memories for some new Fire fans. Also, Wednesday night, I had a great time meeting some new Fire fans, some new guys with Redline Supporters Group. Just want to recognize Alex and O'Malley. Thank you so much for being so hospitable, sharing a beer with me, sharing some stories, talking a little soccer. And yeah, anytime you guys want to start the gray hair, gray beard Chicago Fire supporters group, you let me know. I can contribute a few grays here on the top. I think we might be the first over 40 supporters group in Major League Soccer history if we ever get it off the ground. But anyway, there was a lot to talk about as far as stuff on the pitch, but we have to, as a Chicago Fire community, look at what happened off the pitch on Wednesday's match. By now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the videos that have been going around on social media about the fans that were arrested by Monterrey Security. And I say arrested because that's the technical term, but they were pretty much beaten, assaulted, embarrassed, just the worst kind of policing, I'm doing air quotes here, the worst kind of policing that a security company can do, or anyone who's in this kind of industry and in this kind of business. So I want to talk about it in a few ways. First, I want to give a little background on Monterrey, talk about the MLS and Chicago Fire Code of Conduct, and then talk about the result and kind of where we go from here, right? So to begin with, Monterrey, and there's tons of stories about this. They've been the security force for Soldier Field, for the stadium in Bridgeview, for a number of Chicago area events and venues for years now, over 20 years when this company's been founded. And the founders of it, former Chicago police, as well as a brother-in-law of a Chicago alderman, who's the other founder was a firefighter. So they're very, very politically connected. They have they have a big pool of recruits, of off-duty police officers, of police recruits, of people who've dropped out of the police force or couldn't cut it in the police force. So this is the population of employees that Monterrey is pulling from. Also, it looks to me that a lot of their people, like at the gates checking tickets or just checking bags and things, are younger people who really don't have a lot of experience, and then they save kind of the policing for the bigger guys with the like the in-stadium security for the bigger guys, the people who might actually have a police background, which, that's not the worst strategy there. But what is hiring people without background checks, which has been something that they have been found to do as a company, hiring people and starting jobs without licenses, which is something they've been found to do. Go look up the Minnesota Vikings incident. They were the security force for the Minnesota Vikings stadium until it was found out they were hiring people without background checks and didn't have the requisite licenses. So Minnesota terminated contracts with them. It's a lot of shady business dealing in it. And on top of it, there's the political connectedness. I saw an article that mentioned that they've donated over $100,000 to local Chicago politicians over the last however many years in order to maintain, obviously, to maintain their presence and to maintain their political clout. So there's that. You have a nepotism, you have lack of training, you have lack of experience, and honestly, the job of security, in my opinion, now I'm no security expert. I am no tactical expert in any means. I've just been a lawyer for 15 years, and I did spend a little bit of time doing some criminal defense work and a little bit of time with the prosecutor early in my career. And from my experience and from what I would like to see as a fan and just as a rational person, I think that the whole point of security, ensure safety, de-escalate situations. And it seems that Monterrey's approach to things is completely the opposite. It is to escalate things so that they feel justified enough to use force and violent force and unreasonable force in this sense. When you have 8 different security officers having to hogtie and carry someone out and then smacking his head on steps, or in another incident that was captured on video from Wednesday, watching a Monterrey security guard sucker punch a fan in the stomach and then slam him up against the wall while 3 other security guards came over to help handcuff him. So there's a lot to be desired from Monterrey and its founding and its model and its procedures and all that sort of thing. But also as an attorney, there's the other side that we got to look at. We actually have to look at these policies that are in place here by Major League Soccer that the Chicago Fire have to follow. So let's take a look at the Major League Soccer Code of Conduct. And I'm not trying to excuse any of the behavior by Monterrey Security here, but I think it's important for fans to understand what is in the Code of Conduct before attending a match and before doing anything that could incite or raise the ire of security. Again, be smart about it, right? Be safe, be smart. Like, I'm not going to stand here and scream in the face of a Monterey security guard. I'm just asking to get punched and cuffed and arrested, right? Like, that's not a real smart thing to do. Stand up for your rights, but when you enter into that stadium, you lose certain rights and you're beholden to certain rules that you have to follow that Monterrey has been authorized to enforce. Now, do they do it the right way? Definitely not. But again, something to keep in mind when you enter in the stadium. All right, so let's take a look at the MLS Fan Code of Conduct here. And this, I pulled it up from the Chicago Fire's website. This is the supporter code of conduct, they call it. But it is pretty much verbatim from the league's code of conduct. So here it is. Major League Soccer and each of its clubs are committed to creating a safe, comfortable, and enjoyable match day experience for all fans visiting MLS stadiums and facilities. MLS and its clubs are also deeply committed to fostering an inclusive environment free of discrimination and harassment. The Fan Code of Conduct addresses conduct that is inconsistent with these goals and detracts from the match day game experience. And yeah, by the way, it's kind of funny that the Code of Conduct talks about creating an inclusive environment, and all these arrests occurred on Pride Night. Just a little bit of irony there for everybody listening. Okay, the Code of Conduct goes on. The following conduct is prohibited in the stadium and all parking lots, facilities, and areas controlled by the club or MLS. Bullet point number 1, behavior that is unruly, disruptive, threatening, or violent in nature, including verbal or physical harassment of match officials, players, staff, or fans. Next one, conduct that is illegal. Conduct that results in damage to the venue or other personal property. Displaying signs, symbols, images, using language or making gestures that are threatening, abusive, or discriminatory, including on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, gender identity, ability, and/or sexual orientation. Displaying signs, symbols, or images for commercial purposes or for electioneering, campaigning, or advocating for or against any candidate, political party, legislative issue, or government action. Entering or attempting to enter the field track, the tunnel, or any other location other than that permitted by the fan's ticket or credential. Possession of an unauthorized pyrotechnic device, smoke, or firework, or other prohibited items. That one has an asterisk after it, and I don't see any further follow-up on the club page for what that asterisk means. I assume it means if they have a safe smoke permit and permission from the club and security and the local fire department in order to safely light off smoke bombs or things like that. We've seen that with goals scored. We've seen that with pregame traditions and things. So from around the league. So I think that's what that little asterisk means. But again, it's not defined on the webpage. Other prohibited behaviors, throwing objects of any kind, including streamers, failing to follow requests from venue staff regarding stadium operations, policies, and emergency response procedures. And I think that's more geared towards if there's lightning or storms or severe weather or a fire in the building or something like that. But I'm sure Monterrey would use this to say, I told these guys to leave, they didn't, so we had to escalate. Additional things that are prohibited: declining to promptly return a ball that enters the stands, irresponsible use or consumption of alcohol or other substances, making unauthorized transmissions or play-by-play accounts of the match, any behavior that otherwise targets other fans or interferes with other fans' enjoyment of the game. So those are the prohibited conduct. That's the prohibited conduct according to Major League Soccer's code of conduct. So what was happening in the incident on Wednesday night? We saw video and we've heard accounts from fans all over social media and the news. Even NBC5 ran a story on it, and we saw a handful of fans. A handful is a loose word. There were maybe two or three of them who were waving Palestinian flags. That's what's first brought Monterrey Security's interest into this whole thing. So they were waving Palestinian flags around. Now, how does that violate the code of conduct? Some of these are going to be a stretch, I know, but if I'm putting myself in Monterey's shoes and trying to justify the actions, this is what I'm thinking. And some of you may say it's not justified at all, and that they should be allowed to wave the Palestinian flags. And fine, that is your stance on it. I'm trying to understand how this could happen, right? So fans waving these Palestinian flags, it could be argued that the behavior was unruly and disruptive. It could be argued that it was threatening to other fans who do not support the Palestinian cause. In addition, I want to do a quick check. And yes, I did a quick check. Philadelphia player Ty Baribo, who's I think still atop the Golden Boot lead, he is an Israeli player, and having the Palestinian flags being waved in the stadium where he's playing also could be construed as unruly, disruptive, or threatening towards him as well. So that's an argument that could be made for why these flags had to come down. Additionally, displaying signs and symbols, images that are threatening or discriminatory on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin. Again, that's all in play by displaying these Palestinian flags. Also, political banners and flags are prohibited under the policy. Could be interpreted that these Palestinian flags are a political message as well. Failing to follow requests from venue staff. I mean, they could say, "Hey, look, you're blocking the view of people. You're standing up in the section. There's people behind you who want to watch the game. You're just being disruptive. You're not there to watch the game, enjoy the game, and support the team. You're just there to make a statement, shake a flag." Those are all things that could be argued as to why security's intervention was necessary in this moment. Now, what's the proper response here? The code of conduct also says here's the response for when there's a breach of this code of conduct. And it says, any fan who violates any of these provisions may be subject to penalty, including but not limited to ejection without refund, loss of ticket privileges for future games, and revocation of season tickets. Any fan who, 1, conducts themselves in an extremely disruptive or dangerous manner, a level 1 offense, or 2, commits multiple violations during a 12-month period, may be banned from attending future MLS matches for up to a year or longer. Level 1 offenses include, but are not limited to, violent behavior, threatening, abusive, or discriminatory conduct or language, trespassing or throwing objects onto the field, use or possession of unauthorized pyrotechnics or other dangerous prohibited items, or illegal conduct. Depending on the nature and severity of the violation, individuals who violate this fan code of conduct may be required to submit a written request for readmission and participate in an online fan code of conduct education class, FCEC, in order to be reinstated. Please note that MLS and its clubs reserve the right to refuse entry to anyone who has engaged in harassment of match officials, opposing team members, staff, or other fans who have otherwise violated the code of conduct using social or digital media or other forms of communication. So the code of conduct even applies to online conduct. And then just to wrap it up here, and we'll dive into it a little bit more, prohibited items that are specifically listed here: weapons of any kind, but not limited to knives, pepper spray, stun guns, concealed weapons, and firearms; fireworks of any kind, including but not limited to flares, smoke bombs, incendiary devices, and pyrotechnics; illegal drugs or harmful chemicals; any missile or object that can be used as a projectile; aerosol cans or pressurized containers; professional camera equipment, including but not limited to tripods, battery packs, large commercial video cameras; noisemakers, including but not limited to whistles and horns; laser pointers, remote-controlled aircraft or unmanned aircraft systems, drones; hoverboards, selfie sticks, inflated soccer balls, beach balls, or other inflatable items, animals, excluding certified service animals with proper documentation, and any other items deemed to be inappropriate and or dangerous by venue security representative. So it's that last catch-all one that Monterey gets the discretion to say what is an inappropriate and or dangerous item. And I don't know if they're going to actually believe themselves if they say the Palestinian flag is an inappropriate or dangerous item, but those are the specifically enumerated items that are prohibited under the fan code of conduct. So looking at the situation that occurred, we have fans that are likely violating the code of conduct in some area by waving around these Palestinian flags, whether it's threatening to people who are in opposition to that position, threatening to Ty Baribo and other players who may have Jewish heritage and Israeli nationalism or national ties, maybe threatening. It may be disruptive to the fans in the supporter section who are there to watch the game and support it. But I think initially the response was correct. Security came down and told them, put the flags away or give us the flags or we're going to escort you out. A fire representative came down and said, put everything away, and everything seemed to be fine. And to me, that's the proper way to do it. You come in and say, look, this is the fan code of conduct. You are not allowed to be displaying these flags. And again, there's been other things put out by Major League Soccer about flags of nations for who aren't involved with players on the pitch, or putting out political statements. They even came out and specifically said, we're not going to allow anything regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the stadiums. So I think security was justified to come in and just say, look, you got to put the flags down or you got to leave. And a fire team official, again, it's been reported and videotaped and seen, a fire team official or whoever it was came down and said, look, you got to put them away or leave. And from what I understand, they put him away. That it was the situation was de-escalated, and I think that's the best way to do it and handle the situation. We're all here to watch the team and support the team. Let's focus on that. The problem was Monterey then continued after the fact. They continued to come down and agitate the fans. They could not let this go. They had to continually come down and inspect the area and look for the flags and look for people and try to single out people. And that's when Monterey Security escalated things to the point of battering, assaulting, and injuring, and likely sending one of the fans to the hospital. So that is the absolute worst thing that anyone could have done, but especially the security force there who was there to ensure the safety, right? What does it say here? Create a safe, comfortable, and enjoyable match day experience for all fans. And they did the exact opposite. They antagonized, they intimidated, they escalated, and they battered and assaulted and injured fans on that day. So I'm asking everyone out there, like, understand the code of conduct, understand why we go to these games, but also be careful because we know Monterey's reputation here. Don't incite things, and I would say just walk away. To me, that's the best thing. Just walk away. But hey, take it from me, someone who actually has been arrested by Monterey Security. Yes, you've heard that correct. Back in the 2010 playoffs, I think it was 2010 playoffs, or 2009 playoffs. I actually was arrested by Monterey Security in Bridgeview because there was a person in my section who lit a flare, threw it down in front of us, and it actually lit some streamers on fire. So I stomped on the streamers to put out the fire. Within a minute, I was lifted up by the collar of my shirt, carried out of the supporters section for this playoff game, carried to the top of the section, and was handcuffed. All around me, fans were saying, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He was helping us. He didn't do anything. They didn't want to hear it. All I heard was some yokel with probably a fourth grade education from Monterey say, that's the guy I saw. I'm like, all right, boom. And I was saying, it wasn't me. There was another fan in my section with the flare. I can tell you who it was. Let's talk about it. They cuffed me. Fortunately, I wasn't hassled and beaten or anything like that. Again, I was just talking to them. I was trying to be at least respectful of, whatever authority that they had there. The other thing was that was shortly before I had to take my ethics exam, part of the bar exam. So I didn't want any trouble messing with my potential licensing and future career here. But yeah, they took me down into the holding cell in Bridgeview. They took away my cell phone. They took away my wallet. Again, all things that I think are actually legal. That there was another sergeant who came down here, started speaking in Spanish to the guard in the holding cell. Of course, I understood enough to know that they were just sitting here calling me names, insulting me, blah, blah, blah. And when I stood up to say, "Excuse me, sir, I'd appreciate it if you didn't call me names and insult me," that is when he came over and said, "I wasn't doing that." Typical police stuff, trying to redirect you, trying to undermine your own thought, gaslight you, and you need to sit down. I'm like, I'm in a cell. Why do you want me to sit down so badly? Like, you want to come in here and like, have me sit down? And, I got to the police station in Bridgeview, talked to the police sergeant. As good fortune would have it, he was also Greek. So we were talking a little bit in Greek, and he's like, "What's going on here, man?" I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm a law student. Some idiot fan threw a flare, and they brought me down here." And he goes, "Look, can I let you out on your own cognizance? You're not going to screw me. I hate these guys. I hate dealing with these Monterrey guys. They don't know what they're doing. They're always making our job harder for us. Like, even the police officer who picked me up from Bridgeview PD, like, sat me next to the Monterey security guard who was the eyewitness who had to go give a statement." I'm like, this is stupid. Like, they don't want to deal with this either. So no one has a good opinion of Monterey security, and it's pretty much just an issue of political clout. I hate to say it's the Chicago way of doing business, right? And until there's a successful lawsuit that actually challenges their licensing, and until their owners and managers and officers of this company are indicted and charged, I don't think you're going to see anything change. So what can we do about it as fans? I mean, first of all, we've got to be safe. We've got to be secure. We've got to follow the code of conduct. I don't think anyone is saying to not do that, to not follow the code of conduct, to not have a good game day experience. The other thing I would say is just be smart about it. It's like, if a police officer pulls you over and you just are gonna, like, crack the window and be one of those First Amendment auditor types, that's going to raise the alert of a police officer, and it's going to make things more difficult for you. So I'm just going to say, be smart about it. I'm not saying to give up your rights, but be smart about it. Just be smart about things. It's definitely better to be escorted off the property and not allowed back to a fire game, and then address it with the fire organization after the fact, than it is to be beaten and cuffed and charged and taken to jail and then trying to fight it. Because at that point, it's so escalated. Everyone's just trying at that point, after the fact, from the fire's perspective, from law enforcement's perspective, just kind of de-escalate it and move on. So I will just say, be smart and be safe. Support the team. Continue, fire fans, to contact your ticket reps. Continue to contact the front office. Continue to bring it up in social media exchanges. Continue to bring it up with fire officials. Continue to bring it up if you have any local government connections. Continue to bring it up. Continue to write into the news. These are ways that we can put pressure onto Monterey. Sounds like it's a little, short-lived. I wish I could give you some legal resources. I wish I could connect. You go on the state bar website, the ISBA, and look for attorneys that may take these kind of cases and want to prosecute Monterey event staff and Monterey Security, as well as the individuals who work for them. Now, also working in the insurance field, I'm sure a lot of these Monterey security guards are like, whatever, they're going to sue us. Our insurance company is going to cut us a big cut the victim a big check, and then we'll just be back doing what we do, week in and week out. So that's the other thing that's got to change, is that but I don't know how to change the mentality of a company who just doesn't care. So that's what I will say. If anyone else wants to talk about it from, say, a legal perspective, from a personal perspective, or just kind of talk and vent some frustration, reach out. I'm happy to talk. Find me at a tailgate. Find me at a match. You can email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, and we can have some correspondence there. But that's what happened. Again, just to kind of summarize it, read the fan code of conduct. Realize that there is certain conduct, and I think the fans waving Palestinian flags around, the point was to incite something. Definitely not a beating. I mean, the point is to draw attention to your cause, right? So you're not there to support the game at that point and watch the team. You're there to draw eyeballs and bring attention to your flag and to your cause. So in that sense, I think security was correct and fire staff were correct in saying, please just put them down and enjoy the match. But then the moment Monterrey came back, that and I commend the fans for listening to the fire representative and doing that. But the moment Monterrey comes back and the moment people start picking fights with security, that's when you have these issues. And now it has to get escalated to the fire front office, to law enforcement, to the legal system, I think, to local government, if we can get them involved in some level. So that's kind of my commentary on it, right? Again, I'm in no way condoning anything that Monterrey did. As a victim of their policing techniques, again, I'll put that in air quotes, policing techniques. I would absolutely love to see them prosecuted, shut down, losing their business license, losing their security license. I would love to see any of those in-stadium security thugs thrown out, unemployed, and prosecuted for what they're doing to fans. Um, I just, yeah, I think I'm just going to end it right there. I'm just going to say it with that. There's no real good way to transition out of such a heavy topic like that, and I thank you to our listeners and viewers on YouTube who kind of listened to all of that and kind of went through an analysis of it with me. Again, no love lost for anything that Monterey does or for them at all, but I think we as fans too need just to make sure that we're being smart as well. Of course, easy for me to say sitting behind a microphone, but I was the one that was assaulted before. And yeah, just to end that story, retained an attorney and talked to the prosecutor. Prosecutor said that Monterey wanted me banned for life from all Soldier Field events and from all Bridgeview Stadium events. They also wanted me to pay a fine and serve jail time up to 364 days because they charged me with a misdemeanor. Anything that is jail time of a year or more has to be categorized as a felony. So they didn't want to. I don't think they had enough to prosecute me for a felony. I was charged with reckless conduct and Class A misdemeanor. So they wanted the maximum sentence. So my attorney looks at the prosecutor and says, "Okay, what evidence do you have?" She's like, "Well, we've got the statements from the security." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So the road flare that my client allegedly was waving around in the air, according to the report, you don't have that. Well, no. You don't have video of the incident. No. You don't have any corroborating statements from any other fans or security. No. It's like, so the only evidence you have is a statement from the Monterey security guard who claims to have witnessed it. And she goes, yeah. And he looked at the guy and looked at her and goes, you really want me to cross-examine this guy on the stand? You really want me to do that? She goes, look, I'm sorry. Just give me some time to talk to these guys. So we continued the hearing. We came back 30 days later. And because of just how tenuous their case was, and I'll be polite in saying that, they just asked me to do some community service. And I said, look, I'd love to go to trial and stick it to these guys, but I do have an ethics exam coming up and I do have a bar exam coming up. I'd like this to be done. So yes, I'll agree to do some community service. And the community service, it was just like, here's a form, have someone in public affairs or religious institution sign off that you did some hours of work. And I was like, cool, okay, fine, whatever. just had someone sign it off. So that was the resolution to my issue there. And that was 15 years ago. And when I think back on my career as an attorney of things that I would have liked to maybe do differently, that was definitely one of them. I wish I would have exercised my rights a little bit more and maybe pursued it a little bit more legally. But at that time in my life, I just wanted to put that behind me, take my bar exam, and start my career. So that was the resolution to my story. For those of you who are wondering, thank you for indulging me just a little bit further. I should probably get a therapist and talk about that a little bit more, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, transitioning back to the on the field play, Chicago ends up losing that Wednesday night match 1-0 to Philadelphia on a 10th minute PK by Damiani. Tough break for Andrew Goodman. Definitely not one of his better games. Was not able to contribute offensively. And if you're not contributing offensively, you really got to play solid defense. And he had a very shaky defensive game, highlighted by him kind of trailing his back arm when he jumped up to block a cross. And of course, that's exactly where the ball goes. Gets hit No, maybe it was his front arm. Either way, arms are out as he's jumping up to block a cross, hits his arm. Now, maybe if it like grazes his arm and continues into the box where the attacker can make a play on it, maybe the officials let it go. But this one, it hits his arm, completely redirects it out of bounds for potentially a corner kick. So obvious. And the referee just goes, hang on, let's get the VAR check. He followed his process. Okay, pretty obvious. Yep, PK, and it's converted. I will say I was invited by a professional organization to come up and watch the game in their suite, a legal and claims organization, and watching the game from the suite. Not a lot of people were big soccer fans, but they're happy to be part of the group. Loved coming in. Loved the opportunity to go to a Fire game. I think that was cool. There were a lot of professionals in there, like from their 20s all the way through their 50s and 60s, who are like, I'm really glad I get to come to a Fire game. This is my first game, or I've only been to one before, but it was years ago, and I want to get back into it. So I think that was really cool for them to see a game in a suite like that and be able to talk to at least I was there to kind of provide more Fire insight and MLS and soccer insight for it. But I'm up in the suite and I'm watching the penalty, and people are like asking, how good is the goalie? Is he going to be able to save it? I'm like, look, it's really tough to save a PK, but this guy's going low to the keeper's right. If he just makes a decent dive on it, he's going to save it. And of course, that's where the shot went, but Jeff Gall's leaning to his left. I'm just like, oh. So got to work on some PKs with Jeff Gall. But you know what? When you're at home in MLS and when you've got guys like Kuipers, All-Star, Zinkernagel, Bamba, you need to be able to at least score one or two, probably 3 goals at your home stadium. And that has been an absolute struggle for the Fire this year. And yeah, again, I'll blame Bamba's finishing. I'll blame some other finishing. Bamba was just off. Like there were times when I'm yelling at Gutierrez, shoot, shoot, shoot. He had that nice little exchange with Kuipers in the second half where Kuipers actually had to jump up out of the way for Gutierrez to shoot the ball, but it's blocked by a defender. I thought there was another time where Gutierrez laid the ball off to Bamba that he had a better angle and should have taken his shot. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's just trying to be creative for your teammates, get it to one of the other star players on the team. But I would have loved to see Gutierrez take that opportunity first time for himself instead of trying to find like the perfect shot and lay it off for his teammate. But there were definitely opportunities that the Fire had. Could not finish. Kuipers had a beautiful volley that just grazed the top of the crossbar. So the opportunities were there despite the Fire not playing a very good game. Now let's take a look at the stats and see if the stats bear that out as well. The Fire ended up with 57% possession, 15 shots, but only 2 shots on goal. And that is a huge problem. Only 2 shots on goal, which resulted in a 0.9 XG. Now, Philadelphia had a 1.2 XG expected goals. And as we know, depending on the algorithm, that is between like a 0.85 and a 0.95. So if you take away their penalty kick, you're looking at them having an expected goals of about half, about a 0.5. So this was not a very good offensive game. In fact, Philly only had 3 shots on goal out of a total of 11 shots. So not much of an offensive game going on here, and the Fire just could not dominate in the middle of the field. They did have a lot of possession. Again, 57%, 487 passes, 82% passing accuracy, but that probably came a lot of the Fire playing out of the back. And let's double check down here. Yep, a lot of that possession was in the second half towards the end of the match as well. So I think the stats do kind of bear it out here. Here's the other thing. 1 corner kick and 2 total crosses for the Fire. So they were not getting the ball up the wings like we've seen them do in the past and when they're having success. Gall is credited with 2 saves. The defense is credited with 3 clearances. Both teams committed 21 fouls. 5 yellow cards against Philly, 1 against Chicago. So that was a very disruptive play by Philadelphia there to kind of ruin the Fire's flow. Again, all the more reason they should have been trying to play those balls into the channels. But then we did see the subs come in as well. Let me pull up the substitution pattern here. And you'll see that Greg Berhalter was even thinking we need to move some guys around here. Acosta comes in for Orahel in the 70th. Haile Selassie comes in for Bamba in the 70th. Barlow comes in for Kuipers in the 73rd. And they're just trying to to boost the offense just a little bit. Acosta, I think he had a very underwhelming game. I didn't see him playing a lot of balls forward or trying to spark the attack. I wonder if his instructions were just kind of stop the bleeding, make sure we don't go down 2-0. Then we saw Jonathan Dean come in for Leo Barroso in the 80th. So we used 4 subs. With a game on the weekend, maybe we should have put in another player and just to kind of boost a little bit of the offense at the end there. But yeah, you did see Philly with a little bit of time wasting at the end. 88th minute sub, 90-minute yellow card, 90 plus 2-minute yellow card. And the Fire just couldn't find their finishing touch. So very disappointing. After being on the road for so long, after having last week off, very disappointing for the Fire, who were about at full strength to not find the back of the net at home. And now they've got a quick turnaround this Saturday against Charlotte, a Charlotte team who is doing very well, or I should say who's doing just a little bit better than Chicago. They are even with points on the Fire. They have the tiebreaker, 1 extra win, but the Fire do have a better goal differential by 4 compared to Charlotte. So this is not going to be an easy game. We saw how the Fire handled them back 4-1 earlier on in the season in Charlotte. However, both teams, Charlotte's going to learn from that experience. The Fire are coming off a midweek game. But the Charlotte is also missing Patrick Agyemang, who is up with international duty. So there's a lot of variables in this one. But looking at the form guide here, Charlotte's coming off 2 straight losses at Philly and at Kansas City, both 2-1 losses away. And then the Fire too, also coming off 2 home losses. So this is going to be really interesting. What's going to give here? Is Charlotte going to continue their road loss streak? Are the Fire going to continue their home loss streak? Is anyone going to score more than a goal this match? I don't know. These are all variables that are going on here, and I'm just not sure how this game is going to end up. I think Greg Berhalter is going to do his best to play his starters as long as they can to play his choice 11 or the best 11 that he thinks at this point, because this is such a vital game in the standings. Again, Charlotte is in 9th. They're in that last play-in spot. Fire are in 10th. Both teams on 25 points. The Fire do have a game in hand. The Fire have a slight edge in points per game, 1.39 to 1.32. Goals for and against, about the same. Again, the Fire have a +3 goal differential. Charlotte has -1. But this is a huge game. If Chicago can beat Charlotte and have a 6-point advantage over a team that they are neck and neck with in the standing, that is going to be huge. And depending on the results from the New York Red Bull and New York City matches, like the Fire could find themselves in 7th or 8th place. Probably 8th. Yeah, I think the best they can jump up is to 8th place, depending on New York City's result. And again, if Red Bulls lose, they'll still own the tiebreaker against the Fire. But still, this match could potentially jump the Fire up 2 spots in the standings and give them a little bit of wiggle room against the team fighting for a playoff spot in Charlotte. So I think they're going balls to the walls for the first hour of this match, and I'm really excited to go and experience it. One last thing, let's end on a positive note after all that discussion about security issues and home losses. Let's end on a positive note. We saw that Philip Zinkernagel was announced to be part of the All-Star team for 2025, taking on the Liga MX All-Stars. This is really cool. Like, I think Zinkernagel is going to have a lot of fun with it. He was talking in the meeting room with the team when it was announced, and gave a quote somewhere. I think said, this is nothing I'm used to. It's not an American thing, but I'm really going to try and go have fun and enjoy it, or something along those lines. So I think it's going to be really cool to see a guy with his skill, because I think Zinkernagel has a lot more technical ability. And when he unlocks the fun in playing in an all-star game and a skills challenge, I think we're going to see some cool stuff. Now, when he's playing on the pitch and he's focused about driving the ball forward and getting the offense going, getting in on goal, playing a good cross, key pass in, I don't think he's trying to do too much flair and fancy, but I think he's got it in his bag, and I can't wait to see him play in this all-star game. So here's the all-star roster, and then we'll wrap up the conversation for today. Goalkeepers: Dane St. Clair of Minnesota, Brad Stuver, Austin, and Yohei Takaoka of Vancouver. Now, Dane St. Clair got the fan vote, and the other two were named by Austin FC coach Nico Estevez. Defenders, Jordi Alba, fan vote. Now, let's start with the fan vote. There are 8 defenders named to the roster. Those voted in by the fans: Jordi Alba, Tristan Blackman, Michael Boxall, Alex Freeman. Coaches selections: Max Arfston, Jacob Glesnes, Andy Nahar, and Miles Robinson. Midfielders, 6 midfielders brought in, and the fans voted in Sebastian Berhalter, Evander, Diego Luna, and the coach selected David DaCosta from Portland, Jep Zverkov from San Diego, and Philip Zinkernagel from our Fire. 9 forwards were selected. The fans voted in Ty Baribo, Denny Bouanga, Leo Messi, and Brian White. The coach selected Anders Dreyer, Diego Rossi, and Brandon Vasquez, and the commissioner, Don Garber, gets 2 picks as well. So he picked Patrick Agyemang and Chucky Lozano. I think it's really kind of funny that Lozano didn't get the fan vote or didn't get a coach's selection, having, I guess, an okay season. I haven't really looked at his stats lately, but obviously the commissioner's pick, there's always a little bit of marketing involved there. So, of course, he's going to pick Chucky Lozano, and then the rising American star, if you will, if you want to buy into that headline, Patrick Agyemang. So that is the all-star roster for Major League Soccer. All-star game, again, will be down at Austin's Q2 Stadium on July 23rd. Can't wait to see how those players come together and put on a show. It's all entertainment for me. Anyway, fans, with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in, watching, listening. Please like, subscribe, rate, review, share the show, grow the show. Look for me at the game tonight. Hopefully this has been some fun listening, and hopefully, we end on a positive note. We come back, we celebrate the club, we celebrate each other as fans, and we get the win tonight. Let's go Fire.